speaking of our dev work, we need to talk about Luke Smith. This is a clip for sure. So, okay, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm going to play you the part of the video where he talks about the job. For anyone who doesn't, if you just happen to not know who Luke Smith is, I guess,
Parallels
stop.
desktop.
I don't care about Parallels Desktop. Go away. No, you're not even going to get to see the ad. Go away. You don't get any money from... Okay, basically, this man right here, Luke Smith. He's a Linux YouTuber. Very rarely does Linux videos. He's looking for a dev to make his website. Anyway, let's listen to the job that he has for us.
Familiar with this kind of stuff and is willing to help. I think that what I'd probably do, so again, you know, I have an audience. I'm going to be selling a lot of these books, hopefully, once it gets underway, and I'd be willing to part with, you know, in terms of payment, I'll part with a good share of the first month or so of revenue to whoever.
We'll get into why the first month or so of revenue isn't going to be enough to cover this job in just a minute.
Whoever is willing to help with this project. Maybe, you know, more than that if I think that it's warranted. But honestly, I think this...
It will be. Anyway.
Could be a very simple project if someone is familiar with Stripe's API. You'll also need to interface with Lulu's API. So basically just to explain the job, what it would be.
How did it take me so long to find this section? This is literally the part I was looking for.
Is I'd want a website, and I want, firstly, I want it to look very simple. You know, I like HTML buttons, frankly.
CSS is
but you need a
zero
little
CSS,
JavaScript
easy.
that interacts with the Stripe API so people can pay, you know, and you have some kind of interface where it has a cart and stuff like that. But specifically, you take payments with Stripe and then you send to Lulu's API an order to print the book and deliver it to the person's house. Okay, that's basically it. All you need to know is how to use the APIs of Lulu and Stripe and some other stuff. There are other details like shipping information and how fast they want it shipped that you can get from Lulu's API. I just don't want to do it myself.
Okay, now, as he said, this sounds like an easy job, and it does sound like an easy job. So basically, sum it up, you're going to be creating a shopping website that gets books printed, and then the book printing thing will send you the books. Fine, sounds easy enough. This job is really, really expensive, and I don't think Luke understands what he's exactly asking for here. So, okay, let's break down part of it. Let's say we want to go and do the shopping cart, for example. Okay, so we have a shopping cart. That's fine. Well, let's add the books to it. Okay. But what if someone wants to go and, I don't know, say, come back to the store at some later point? Are we going to not have accounts? So is the shopping cart just going to be stored as cookies? Okay. That's not going to work later down the line. Later down the line, you're going to want to have, especially with things like shipping information, you want to have shipping information stored somewhere. So you're going to have an interface for the shipping information to be stored. And you probably also want to have a interface that stores the credit card information. And what if you don't just want to do credit cards? What if you also want to support things like PayPal? Well, now you need to add in the support for PayPal within Stripe. Luckily, that's not too difficult. It's just another thing you need to do. Okay. Now, that's all already starting to get quite expensive. So you're also going to have some way to generate receipts, because you're going to have to make sure your taxes are in order if you're trying to operate a store like this. There's no way you're going to get around doing that. You have to do it, especially if you're working through Stripe. Your government is going to know how this is going to be going down. So you're going to need to generate receipts. Okay, so you need to be storing this payment, all of this information somewhere, and you should also be sending these receipts to the user. You also, when you have this shipping stuff, when you're shipping the books to the people, you should be giving them some sort of shipping information. And this shipping information, once again, links back to this account. So there's going to need to be an account system in here, whether you like it or not. Unless you want your shopping site to be incredibly inconvenient to use, there'll be an account system. So, because you have accounts, now you're going to need to have some sort of database. And you're going to need a database anyway, because you're going to need to actually be storing your receipts somewhere. So, we have a database with all the accounts of these receipts. We now need to be doing password management. Okay, this adds another level of complexity to it. So now we've already just built this massive shopping system, and this is without even getting into the problem of the shop front itself. So how are we going to be generating the pages for the books? Are we going to be generating all of these pages by hand? That is completely insane. That would be so much more work to do. So what you're going to want to do is have the books stored in some sort of database where you can just generate the pages. Whether that's through some like static HTML generator or something else like that, you'll need something like that. And you'll... I can't even get... I'm honestly losing my track of how insane this job is. So you need to make sure you have these pages being generated like this. Okay. And now we get into a really big problem. We're going to have the prices. So prices might sound easy, but prices are very much like the problem of doing time zones. If you're don't do time zones yourself. Go download a time zone application. But there's a reason why things like Shopify exist, and it's because the US tax system and global tax systems are an absolute fucking nightmare for any sort of retailer. So different states in the US either don't have sales tax, have different levels of sales tax, and that's already enough problems. So you're gonna have to show different prices depending on where the user's coming from. So this isn't just a little bit of JavaScript. Now you're going to have some checks on their IP address to see what region they're actually from. And you're not getting around this. You're going to have to be charging sales tax whether you like it or not. Then we also have the problem of dealing with people outside of America. So let's say we're in Australia. In Australia, you are required by law to apply GST to most sales. So now your payment system needs to apply GST during the checkout process. But what if we're actually in Europe? Well, Europe doesn't have GST. Europe has VAT, which is value-added tax, and you're going to have to go and make sure that's being done as well. And we've just made this insanely complex system, and that's without even getting to other countries. I'm sure other countries like India and Japan and anywhere like that also have their own sales tax that must be applied to any sales made within their country. So all of this stuff needs to be done, and the backend, I believe he wants it built in Python or Node. The backend, like the language it's built in, honestly doesn't matter, because it's such a massive job anyway, that you could fucking build it in C for all that matters, and it would still take you like 2 or 3 months to build. So I've gone over the books itself, the shipping information. Oh, did I say that the receipts need to be emailed to the user as well? So you're gonna have to make sure you're storing email information, even if they don't have an account. So you'll have the account information there that'll be stored in a database. And you're also gonna have a system where you actually email these receipts to users, because not all of them are actually going to be using the account system. So the receipts, the payment information, the tracking information all need to be sent to the user. This isn't the 90s. You're not going to get away with just having a site that's as simple as you want it to be. Let's say then you want to also have some other form of payments. Now, Luke's very into crypto, so maybe you want to have crypto payments as well. I don't know if Stripe supports crypto. That probably does at this point. But if you don't have crypto payment, or if you don't have Stripe supporting it, you might need an extra API to deal with that, and that builds a whole nother layer of complexity to this. And like he says I want simple web pages, as if that part's the difficult part. Generating simple pages or generating pages with complex CSS isn't difficult. Like, you're gonna make a template page, you'll make a template shop page and populate it with the information you want. You could go and do this with static HTML. It could be done. I wouldn't recommend it, because it would make updating the site an absolute fucking nightmare, because then you would have to go and regenerate the entire site every single time, rather than like generating it from JavaScript, or generating it on the back end with PHP or something like that. Like, there's a reason why we do everything dynamically now. It's because it's just easier. So if you were doing this by hand, you would then have to go and manually populate all of these pages, make sure the links are being, make sure that the payment links are actually there, and make sure you're actually going to the correct parts of the site. And then if anything needs to be updated, then all of that stuff would have to be done again by hand, which is why we don't use HTML by itself to do it. We use fucking JavaScript or back-end page generation. I just came up with another problem. What if down the line you want to have some way to actually discount books? So, one, you're either going to have to go and do everything again by hand, update the pages, update the pages you want to discount with the books you want to discount, or you have it on a database. But you still need to have some sort of way to actually go and update that. Now, whether you're going to, say, manually update it through SQL on the back end by updating the database, or have some sort of... Most shopping sites will have some sort of interface to go and do it, whether that's like a GUI interface or a CLI interface. In Luke's case, though, he'll probably want something CLI, because I don't know if he knows any SQL. Maybe he does, I don't know. But you're going to have something there to update the database to make sure you can do updated prices and all that. And then you have to make sure that your, like, taxation is actually properly changing for all of the different different regions. So you will need to have some sort of admin account system to actually check the prices in different regions. Even if you don't have accounts for users, there'll still need to be some way to emulate you're going in a different region, just to make sure testing can be done in some relatively simple way. What else do we have? Do we have anything else that's a big deal? Oh, and the reason why I can go on this long spiel about all of this stuff that needs to be done is because the spec for this project is so ill-defined. Yes, Luke can say he wants something simple now, but he's gonna realize as the shop goes and as he does his taxes that he will need something more than this. And the project is just going to scope creep. It's going to keep going and going and going, and this is going to be a job where it probably is never going to end. And the problem that we have here is Luke is very much misunderstanding how much money he's going to make from this. So, I can guarantee, I know Luke has a big channel. He has 118k subs. That's cool. But, as you can see, 118k subs. Probably going to be 119 by the time you see this. Maybe even more. Like, maybe 120. There's not going to be that many people who want to buy the books. So the books he's printing are like ancient books that have gone out of copyright, and he wants to make sure these books stay in circulation. It's a perfectly valid project. I don't think it's a bad project. But the PDFs he's going to be using, I'm pretty sure he's going to make available for free, and what you're getting is like you're paying to get the book printed, basically. Plus, all of the books already exist out there for free anyway. He's just like reformatted them. And let's say, I don't know how much he's going to be charging for these books, but let's say, oh, no, okay, so I was wrong. He did actually say he does want support for coin payments so he can do Bitcoin and Monero. Okay, sure. So we've confirmed that he does want crypto stuff, which then makes the taxation even more annoying. And you have to make sure you're getting your receipts perfect then. So there will need to be receipt generation as well, no matter what you think about it. Also then, yeah, it's gonna make making sure the prices are working well is also gonna be a pain in the ass as well. I don't know how much effort Coin Payments does with helping you with the with the crypto payments like that. Let's see. It seems like it does a lot of stuff for you, so you won't need to do things like locking down crypto prices because it's all done for you. So at least you don't have that problem to deal with. Where was I going? Oh right, the price. So Luke is probably not going to sell that many books, to be completely frank. I know Luke probably thinks he is going to sell a lot of books. He's going to make a lot of money from this. There's going to be a lot of money to actually pay the dev. But even if Luke paid me 300% of what he made in the first month, I wouldn't do this job. It just wouldn't happen. So let's be kind to Luke and say he makes $1,000, which I don't expect to happen. I really don't. I would find it very unlikely that he's going to make that much money. Let's say he's charging $10 a book, which for what he's doing is probably way too expensive for what they should be, but that would be selling 100 books in the first month. If it was a Luke Smith book, like if Luke had wrote his own book, that would be one thing. That would sell. But these are just like random ancient books, and I don't see that happening. $1,000. Okay. Now, we have a price. So let's say that the dev wants to be paid, if you have any respect for yourself, at least $40 an hour. So the $40 an hour is on the low end as well. I'd want to be paid at least $75 for a job like this, to be fucking honest, but I would accept $50. So let's say, we'll say $40 an hour. So 1,000 divided by 40, that gives you 25 hours. So that isn't even a full week of work if you're working full time. This will take so much more than 25 hours to do. If this job took, honestly, I would say, if we want to be completely honest, I would say this job is probably going to cost at least $10,000. I wouldn't touch it for anything less than 5 digits, to be completely frank. So that's not gonna. He's not gonna make that for at least most of a year. There's no way he's gonna make that until at least 10 months minimum. If he's making $1,000 a month, which isn't gonna happen. So $10,000, and I would consider the job. I wouldn't want to do it, but I would consider it. And But the thing is, someone's going to do it. Someone will do this job. He's already had people apply to it, and someone's going to realize how insane this project's going to be. And if Luke doesn't realize how insane this project is and tries to run it without doing receipts and stuff, he's going to be in a legal nightmare. He's going to have the IRS knocking on his door if he doesn't do it properly. Because it's one thing to get your individual taxes wrong, but getting your business taxes wrong is that's going to be a big problem. And when you're operating a business like this, yeah, the IRS knows you're operating a business. Stripe has to inform them, that you're actually a merchant at this point. So, yeah, this job's so much more expensive than Luke thinks it is. And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. It's insane. If I want to work for basically no money, I'm going to work for myself, pretty much. I'm not going to do someone else's stuff and then have no rights to it. Because this entire project is the reason why things like Shopify exist. Shopify is how you build a shop because it's just easier. That's it. There's a reason why people don't build their own shops, because Shopify just does everything for you. It does the US tax nonsense for you. It generates receipts for you. It does all of this stuff that actually makes building a shopping site difficult and gives it to you in the form of some black magic that you can't really work out how it functions, but it at least does it all for you. If he said, I will pay you $1,000 to build me a site and set it up with Shopify, that would be a good deal. Honestly, at that point, it would probably be a bit expensive on his side. I would cut him down a bit, just to be nice. But doing this all from scratch just isn't worth it at all. And I think he also plans to, release the shopping code under a GPL as well. Basically, he wants to make, a GPL'd version of Shopify, which... just fucking use Shopify. I get the meme, everything has to be open source and build it yourself and all that stuff, but at some point, just use Shopify, to be honest. it would be one thing if someone wanted to build their own open source Shopify. That would be cool, and I could fully get that, but that's not what this is. This is you building someone else's shop. They're just going to release the code, and you get probably like, honestly, someone joked in the comments like, "Oh, did you know that in real work, in modern work, you don't get paid in money, you get paid in exposure?" And to be completely frank, I would prefer to be paid in exposure because it's probably going to be worth more than what you're actually going to make from the actual project itself. The only people that this project would actually make financial sense to do with would be people in India or somewhere that has like really different level of buying power. So where like the US dollar is worth considerably more. Not just India, but other places like that where a lot of the dev work does get sent because you can get it done cheaper. But honestly, I don't know how many Indians actually still watch Luke after he's shown how he's basically no care for like the India in general. With all of the jokes he's made about Indian techs and all that. I don't know if there's any Indians who still watch him who'd be up for doing the job. But I was saying earlier that, yeah, he's had people apply for the job, so someone's gonna do it. I feel bad for them. And what's gonna happen is the job's gonna be half done, and the shop's never gonna exist, basically. Or it's gonna have to be scrapped, and Luke's just gonna have to accept it and just use Shopify and just do it like that. Because the other thing about Shopify, so he's using Lulu, and would you look at this? Wow, there's a Lulu Express plugin for Shopify. Just fucking use Shopify, mate. Be so much easier.